You ready?
I'm ready.
I'm so excited about our guest today, y'all. Get ready, buckle your seatbelt, strap it up. I'm talking to the Wonder Woman of the day, my personal she-ro. I said it correctly. Not the hero, but the she-ro. Don't be stealing my stuff. This is my baby right now. She is my wife of 16 and a half years and has given birth to 10 of our children. And we've been together for 20 years, y'all. Can you believe this?
That's crazy.
This is my girl.
Yeah.
Come here, baby. Give me some of that. It's my sugar right there. That's my sweet thing. So I'm excited to interview you today.
Okay.
We love to dive deep into your story.
Awesome.
So why don't you tell us your full name and one fun fact about yourself before we get started.
Full name though?
The full name, yeah.
Lisa Davis.
Nah, the full name is Lisa Doris Davis. See, on the last podcast y'all saw, she called me out with my middle name. Her middle name is Doris.
You gonna put it out like that?
That's right. We put it all out in the streets, all out there.
That's not.
Tell them what Doris means.
That's not starting off for a good interview.
It is a good interview because now we're really getting to know you.
Oh, okay. All right.
When someone knows your middle name, they really know you.
All right.
So Lisa Doris Davis, here you are with your
I am.
beautiful smile and amazing presence. So honored to have you. Let's start out by talking about your story. So we'd love to hear a little bit about you, how you were raised, and maybe some of the obstacles that you had to overcome. In fact, not some of them, but let's just dive right in. Let's go to one of the deepest obstacles that you had to overcome to be the amazing and incredible woman that you are today.
Yeah. Woo. That is a story for you. I'm gonna say, sitting where I'm sitting today, I would have never imagined, with all the many parts and facets in my life, that they would be there, and to the capacity that they are. I would have never imagined I would have had 10 kids. I would have never imagined that I would have even been married, like happily married. That's a whole nother conversation.
Wow.
So I was raised by a single father. You know, growing up as a young child, my parents, they got together and got married, had me very young. So they're kind of struggling with their own issues, off and on drug abuse, stuff like that. But long story short, I ended up living with my father. Although my mom was local, I did not have a relationship with her for quite a few years, and these were very imperative years of my life. I mean, I'm talking about when you're going through your cycle, you're going through puberty, and this is the time that you should be talking to someone about boys and just life as a woman. What does that look like? You know, just how do you groom as a female? Just so many different, so many pivotal pieces of my life. I was not really able to have those kind of conversations with my mother because we were just kind of estranged, you know. But I did very well in school. I think I kind of overcompensated for her, for my parents just kind of being in their own situations, feeling like I had to perform all the time. I had to good grades. No, nobody said this to me. This is just the way that I was acting out. I felt like it brought me good attention for me to do well in school. I always got straight A's, very athletic.
So talk to me about, you said you and your mother were estranged.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What was the defining moment for your relationship to be estranged with your mother and for you to live with your father?
You know, I just remember being in elementary school. And as a child, you see a lot of things happening around you, but you can't really put words to it. And I didn't really understand what was happening until later as I was processing it. But I mean, I remember living in a home with the both of them, and at certain points, you know, you would see just a lot of the domestic violence with one another, drug abuse, and just a lot of instability.
So what did that lead to?
It led to me actually being in a situation where as a child, it was a babysitter of mine. I remember my parents hanging out with some friends, on Fridays, what grown folks do. And I just remember being at a babysitter's house, and the babysitter was a teenager. And on that day, I was sexually molested by my female babysitter. But I didn't have the words. I didn't know that's what it was, And so growing up and just moving past that, you just kind of move on. If it didn't kill you, then you just kind of move on and keep going.
Wow.
I never really thought twice about it. I just was like, well, maybe that's just something that happened and it's just a part of life. And it wasn't until as an adult, as I was acting out in certain parts of my life, that I realized the effects of going back to my childhood, the effects of the divorce, the effects of the instability in the home, the effects of being raised by a father. My father was great. He's amazing. My mom was great and amazing, and the Lord walked me through a restoration process with her, even until death, because she just passed away last year.
Wow.
But yeah, it just.
Wow, you just said a lot. So you're talking about divorce, drug abuse, domestic violence. You're talking about being raised by your father, being estranged from your mom, when you have these moments of life and adulthood that you reflect on from your childhood, and you're saying, dang, I was going through a season of puberty. I was going through a growth development process where I became a young woman. And I was like, how did you process that as a married woman? Like, how did you ever what was your perspective on marriage going through that and experiencing that?
My perspective on marriage was not great. I did not have a lot of wonderful marriages around me growing up. And so I always kind of felt like that's the last thing you would want to do, because it kind of would just tie you down. Everything about marriage to me was negative. Maybe you find somebody that you fall in love with, but it's only going to last a short period of time before it goes south, because that's kind of what happened to my parents. They were in love at a certain point, but just due to their choices, they weren't able to sustain that love. And,
Wow. So I
just didn't see any value in it at all. I didn't see value in children. I didn't see value in marriage. At the time, I was acting out, showing the world that I saw value in myself by my performance, by getting a full scholarship to college, a full academic scholarship to college, and seeming like I was on top of my stuff. And I remember being in high school and signing my name, Dr. Lisa Kennedy, because I just knew, and I was voted most likely to succeed. I just knew that I was going to do something great and amazing with my life. And I was going to do it alone. I didn't need anybody's help. My chain just fell off. I was almost kind of like a self-made man, and it brought about this real strong spirit of independence. So I didn't feel like I really needed anything, even to friendships. I think back to the friendships that I had in high school, and it seemed like I was friendly to everybody, and I knew everyone, and I was well known, but I did not have any deep, meaningful relationships all throughout high school and all throughout college.
Wow.
I mean, outside of, when I finally gave my heart to the Lord and I met you.
Wow. So you're talking about polar extreme opposites here.
Opposite.
From raised by a man. You said a self-made man. You forgot the whoa on the front of that. Whoa.
Well, because they don't normally say woman.
I know, but you said, I feel like I'm a self.
I'm not a man. I'm not a man.
Let's go. Let's get the record straight, okay? That's
you
whoa,
know what
man.
I meant. Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify though for the record.
Clarifying. Yes, I am.
Yes, because you have given birth. You have a canal. You have a womb.
I do.
Yes. Yeah. So this polar extreme from I don't see any good marriages. Did you say I don't want to get married?
I did.
I don't want to have children. I don't have a good view of children.
Yeah.
To now being married almost 2 decades.
I know.
And not only that, going from I don't like children
Yeah.
to almost having a football team.
I know. How many is on a football team?
11.
Oh, yeah. We may not get to that number. I still like kids, though. We may not get to
You
that
have
number.
10.
I know.
So that is huge. You got a
Right.
big gap that we need to fill here. So
I know.
what
Okay.
happened to close this gap for you to go from I don't want to be married, I don't like children to married for 2 decades with 10 children
I know.
and potentially
Yeah.
maybe considering more?
Yeah.
But maybe you can explain.
Okay. So what happened? It's a lot happened, and it happened in stages.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to sit here and act like, oh, one morning I just woke up and it was like, Lord, I'll have as many kids, Lord. Use me as you will. You know, or although you're very handsome, you know, me just seeing you, it wasn't like, oh, I'm just in love, forget everything, I forsake the world and just be with you, my love. Like, it wasn't like that, you know? It was, God is so good. Okay. I did take a second breath when I saw you. But God is so good because I'm thinking, when we were both in college, although I had gone through all that I had gone through, I was in a moment of my life where I was searching. And I was searching for truth. And I felt like, I think everybody comes to that point sooner or later in life where you ask yourself, what do I believe? Is what I believe truth? Lord, like, what do you have for me? Why am I here? And those were the kind of questions that I was having with myself, like, that I was having in college. And it just so happens that around that time that I think you were kind of having similar questions as well. And the Lord took us both on our own processes, but that's when we happened to cross paths, like right at that right moment.
Seeking for our purpose.
Seeking our purpose. Because any time before that, you know, it wouldn't have been the right season.
That's right. That's right. And that's a part of why this message is so strong in our hearts, because at a crossroad, this is where the Lord allowed us to encounter Him, and subsequently encounter one another.
Yeah.
So this is a life message for both of us, and that's why inspiring purpose is so important. But finish telling us about what happened in that moment to bridge you going from I don't want to be married, I don't want to have kids, to being at a point where you're now married for almost 20 years almost, and you have 10 children.
I feel like during that time when I was just seeking for truth, because I had grown up a Christian, you know, my parents, it seemed like certain seasons of our life, it could be a season where we were in church, it seemed like almost every day, you know, from the extreme of no makeup, no jewelry, wearing dresses, it just, you know, Pentecostal, Baptist, all kinds of stuff. But it was all religion, and it was like kind of forced down your throat. You know, you better not have sex. Don't be having sex. You better keep your legs closed. But then at the end of the day, you never really knew, like, why? I mean, yeah, you knew that the Lord said don't have sex, but why? So it wasn't something that I even really valued. So I felt like in my brain, what I said was, I'm in control, and I'm going to decide what happens and what doesn't happen. So if I choose to have sex, it's because I'm choosing to have sex and I'm going to be in control. And my dad used to always say, like, always have people love you more than you love them. So all of this stuff was drilled in my head as a young woman. You know, like, even the way that I went about just my life, it was almost as if I was acting out as what a young man would do, even in my pursuit of relationships, because I had no touch point with femininity. And femininity to me seemed weak. You know, weak-minded.
So how did you reconnect? Because when I look at you, you're very feminine. You're very strong, but you're still very feminine.
Yeah.
And you're very, very beautiful and elegant, but yet very strong and powerful as a leader.
Right.
So tell me how you connected to your femininity in pursuit of the relationship with your mom.
Right.
How did you find that?
So I remember it was 2 phases to it. The first phase was when I was in college, And you and I, when I was just talking about going to that point of asking those questions. And I just remember myself being in church on a Sunday. I had just started going to all these different churches, just trying to find a place of where I fit. Do I even fit into the church body at this point? You know, you sinning, all kinds of stuff. It's like, does the Lord even know me? Does he even have use of me? You know, have I already just messed it up? Like, is it a wrap for me? And I just remember on this Sunday, the Lord very clearly speaking to my heart, and I felt him just so near. It's the weirdest thing to try to explain to somebody else, because it's not anything that I could fabricate or like recreate. But in all of these moments growing up, feeling kind of alone or isolated, in this moment of sitting in church, even though there were so many people around me, I felt alone until this moment happened when I felt so close to the Lord. And it wasn't like this was my salvation moment, but I felt like that shell began to crack open a little bit. And I could begin to receive a little bit of what he was saying to me, and who he was saying I am, and how he was saying like how much he loved me and all these different things. It was almost like he was wooing me a little bit, you know? And so it just took me on this journey of just curiosity and wanting to get more of that feeling, more of that, you know, who am I? Tell me again, who am I? Who do you say I am?
Wow.
And slowly but surely it began to take these hardened layers off, where I started to see different sides of myself that I didn't even know that I had. And it all, as these layers were slowly peeling off, I wish the whole thing had cracked open when you and I first got married, but it didn't. So here you and I go into this covenant relationship, and I'm still like I'm still inside the shell, because I had not at this point fully surrendered my heart to the Lord. So I still had some independence. It wasn't as bad, but it was still there. You know, still had a little bit of lust on me, even though like it wasn't fully gone. So all of these things, but yet it was kind of managed because I was starting to explore my relationship with Christ, you know? And it just seemed like time started going. And next thing I know, here we are married for so many years. And then I have at that point, I remember, I think it was like 4 children.
Yeah.
And I just remember, you know, we had bought like this beautiful home. And I just remember one day laying in the bed and waking up and saying to myself, like, there has to be more to life than this. I felt so miserable. And it wasn't anything that you weren't doing. You know what I'm saying? You know how some women are just like, well, you're not making me feel happy, you know? But it was nothing that I could blame anybody else. And even though my relationship with my mom at this point, like we were slowly going towards restoration, like we were having a relationship and we would hang out and have conversations, it still wasn't the way that it ended up being, you know? And I remember, just clear as day, you used to always say to me, at this point you were working as a pastor, full-time pastor. And here I am feeling like the heathen of the relationship, because truth be told, I was not saved. I did not have a relationship with the Lord. And it was almost too embarrassing to admit. I didn't even know that can you even admit something like that? You know? Because in the church body, you know, we can become so religious to the point where we don't allow people to be in this vulnerable state where they can say, hey, I really do need God. Like, I really do need God. And if you're the one that raises your hand, it's almost like you got the scarlet letter on. Yeah. It's almost celebrated for you to portray and act as if you got this thing going on and you're in control of your life, and, you know, you're hiding behind your success. Because that's really what the world wants to see, is just your success. They don't want to hear about your hurts and your fractures and what you're struggling with behind closed doors. And I remember we had invited this couple that we had met to church, and the husband gave his life to Christ that Easter Sunday. Yep. And I remember driving home in a car feeling like crap. I was like, I was just like, I missed an opportunity. I just remember sitting when we were sitting in church and all these people were going up to the altar, and I felt like this pull, like the Lord was saying, today is the day. Like, Lisa, today is the day that like I want you to receive me fully this time. Not just partially, not just enough to let the sun in a little bit so that a couple of things can sprout out, but like today is the day that I want like the whole thing cracked open.
Yeah.
And I remember
just go all in.
Just go all in. I remember saying that to you, like, Dad, you were like, what's wrong? And I said, I felt like I was supposed to give my life to the Lord today, but I'll just wait until next week. This is religion right here, because I literally thought in my mind that I had to go to church, go to the altar to get this relationship with the Lord. So I'm like, dang, I didn't miss the opportunity. I gotta wait a whole nother 7 days. And this is a grown woman at this point.
With kids. And a husband.
And a pastor husband.
Yeah. Ooh. I got to step my game up.
And then you said to me in that moment, you said, babes, why do you have to wait? Why don't you just do it now?
Boom, right now.
You did.
You might be thinking that right now as you're watching this, like, man, I need to get right with the Lord. I need to give my heart to him. Like, I said the prayer,
right,
but I haven't given him control.
No.
See, it's about the fruit of your life.
It's different.
And the root of your life.
Yeah.
So you were saying you had said the prayer, but you didn't give God control.
I didn't.
And man, I've been there. I think all of us can probably say we've been there at some point. So what happens?
Yeah, and when you talked about, I said the prayer, but I didn't give God control, you can tell the difference, because all of these things that you're trying to break off of your life or you're trying not to do is a struggle.
Yeah.
Like you find yourself like trying not to look, trying not to be lustful, trying not to do this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's like, it's all these works and you're just trying in your own strength, and you always eventually fail.
Yep. That's right. Yes.
But on this day, when I tell you, it was different. And Lisa was different. And Lisa has never been the same since that day. And I'm sure, as my husband, I don't know if you would attest to that.
100%.
To say it was a tangible difference.
Yes.
Like night and day kind of thing. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Like a miracle.
100%.
Lord, it was a miracle.
So, a miracle. A miracle. Thank you, Thank you, Jesus. So, we say the prayer,
yeah,
but this time
you led me to the Lord. And even when you offered to do that, the first thing I thought of was like, oh my goodness. Like, I am not about to give you that kind of satisfaction of saying, yeah, I got my wife saved. I just remember that thought came to my mind.
Yeah.
But then the call, like that calling, that prompting from the Lord was so strong. Even that was not enough to make me succumb to pride.
Yeah.
I wanted what he had to offer so bad. I was desperate for it.
That's good. So your life is now transformed because you've submitted your heart, you submitted your life and the control of it to the Lord.
Yeah.
And there's a night and day difference that I noticed that you feel that you're experiencing on a daily basis. The kids are seeing. So talk about, and this will be the last question before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Talk about the relationship with your mother, because I think this is so important when we're talking about fathers and mothers and our relationship with our parents, because sometimes it can be a reflection of our relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
And you're really close with your dad to this day.
Yeah.
But yet this pursuit of your mom always seemed to be just outside of your reach. You just couldn't quite get a grasp or get that approval or get the love you felt like you wanted the way you wanted it. And it was just like always aloof. It was always this nebulous, ambiguous type of relationship that you can never really wrap your arms around. So was there a moment where God literally gave you a revelation about that relationship?
Yeah.
Did it reconcile and turn into the relationship you wanted? Did it not? And if so, what did God speak to you to give you a piece about that relationship with your mother?
Yeah. For the longest time, it was this pursuit of my mom where, like you said, it just felt like I just could never fully grab hold of it the way that I wanted it. Like as a daughter, to think what would it feel like to have that embrace, just that hug from a mom, that warmness, that softness, And to always be feeling like I'm chasing that and I'm wanting it and I'm desiring it, but I'm not quite getting it, you know?
Yeah.
I just remember just being so down one day, just kind of crying out and complaining to the Lord, like just wanting him to just help me to go deeper into this pity party and feel sorry for myself. And I just remember so clear, and he was just like, Lisa, if your mom didn't do another thing, she did enough. And I was like, hold on now, wait a minute. Wait a minute now. You know what I'm talking about when the Lord just kind of drops that kind of nugget on you. You're like, but what about what I had to go through? What about what I had to face? What about what I want? You know, that's not what I'm trying to hear right now. And all of a sudden, I got this vision of being able to see my mom, I'm sure, on a small scale as to the way that the Lord sees her. And I had a vision of seeing her as that 17-year-old young girl who just realized that she was pregnant.
Wow.
And choosing to give me life. And it was this overwhelming compassion that I had for her. Because up until that time, I felt like I could never hit her expectations and she could never hit my expectations. It was like this dance that we were doing for each other, you know? And I just remember the Lord saying, like, if she never did another thing, she gave you life, and that's enough.
Wow.
And when I tell you, babes, you know, it changed my whole world.
So I have to say, from a different perspective, this is powerful because I watched you clamoring for that relationship. I watched you pursuing it, disappointed, frustrated, angry, sad, bitter, like depressed about it. I watched it over the course of our entire marriage.
Yeah.
And my heart broke for you. And when you told me about this revelation where God spoke to you and said she gave you the gift of life, that's enough.
Yeah.
I watched you turn into the woman that you always desired your mother to be for you.
Yeah.
And I watched you turn into that woman for your own kids.
Wow. For
our children. And I thought to myself, wow, I watched her transition from being a girl and a little girl in her heart to being a grown woman, a grown ASS woman.
Yeah, because you know, I felt like that little girl because every time before this situation, every time I thought about that relationship, I would grieve, snotty-nosed grieve, like a little kid. That I just want my mommy. I just want my mommy.
And I watched you take on the anointing, the mantle of a mother.
Yeah. And
you became that mother, and now you're not only mothering 10 of your own that you literally birthed into the earth, but you're mothering other women.
Yeah.
Through You Inspire Now. So before we close, is there anything that you want to share with our listeners and viewers before we transition out?
I do. I just feel like there never should be a moment where you let an opportunity pass where you can just provide some encouragement. And I know that I feel it in my heart already. And you know, it's that spot is still so tender because the Lord gave me something to hold on to keep me in this place of gratitude for life. But here in this room is where my mom passed away when she came to live with us last year. And she passed away from lung cancer. And knowing that relationship is gone, it still hurts. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because you know, as long as a person is alive, there's still an opportunity to get even more restoration and more healing. And so I just want to encourage you, if your mom is still alive, you know, or your parent is still alive, to continue to just take a step back, you know, and see it from a different viewpoint. See it from a viewpoint of where they were, you know, in their life that may have caused some fractures for you.
Yes.
Where were they? What did they go through or experience that may have made them make the decisions that they made? And see them from a place of compassion. And see them from a place of gratitude that they chose life and that you are here. You are here. And so there is an opportunity for you to leave an even greater legacy for the ones that you are able to love and pour back into. Don't get stuck. I almost got stuck, and I'm so thankful that the Lord pulled me out of there to bring me up higher, to see her life and my life from a higher view. And so I just want to encourage you in that, even in your season of motherhood, to let you know that God has given you everything that you need. And at the end of the day, really and truly, your children, the people around you are just wanting love. They're just wanting love from you. And so, I just want to encourage you in that and just tell you to just keep that hope, keep that spirit of gratitude, and just seeing things from a different perspective, a place of compassion.
That's great. So a compassionate gratitude is the attitude.
Yeah.
And
that's a good way to sum it up.
When we keep that, we can't lose.
No.
And even in our muck, God can clean us up.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. No. You don't have to try to do it in your own strength. Right where you are, right here today, despite the mishaps, despite the mistakes, what I'm gaining from your story is that God is always in pursuit of us.
Yeah.
And he will find us as long as we allow him to connect with us.
He'll find you.
And then he'll give us a perspective, even on our past and our pain, that will give us a deeper appreciation for what we've come through so that we can be where we are today.
Yeah.
So we want to leave you with that encouragement today. If there's any relationship, it could not only be a mother-daughter relationship, but it could be a father-son relationship, or a father-daughter, or a son-mother relationship. Whatever relationship in your life needs restoration or needs to be restored. If you still have time, then make time to bring restoration. And if it's not in your power to do that, then just ask God to give you the ability to walk in forgiveness so that you can move forward in your life. We love you. We're so inspired that you have joined us for this particular episode. Yes. And we want to see you again. So prepare to be tuned in for our next upcoming episode of the Inspiring Purpose podcast.
Yeah.
And if this added value to your life, if you know someone that could benefit from this, we pray that you would just share this with them, subscribe. It just helps us to be able to reach more people with this message of faith and hope, so that more of us can be inspired and walk into our purpose. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye. That's your dance right there. How you gonna go dance? No,
Come on. Baby, I'm not running around looking for nobody else. I've got one thing on my mind. I already.
Just ignore that. It's just you just trust me.